And we're back. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with zero qualifications.
Yeah, Steve is on vacation. What, he's in Orlando or something, I think he said.
I can't remember where he is right now.
The Universal Studios in Orlando.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we'll be piloting and co-piloting, just the two of us tonight. But we talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to keep it interesting. We try to have fun. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Okay. One of the things that we have said pretty much from day one, I think we've been doing this for a couple of years now. We've said that because if you consider our age, I'm currently 64, you're currently 60.
60, yep.
Right, okay? And then later this year, I'll turn 65, you'll turn 61. If you consider our age, when we were teenagers, the guys who were making rock music, they were making the music that we now call classic rock. Those guys were all 10, 15, 20 years older than we were then. And a lot of them are hitting end of life type of age, especially when you consider the hard life that many of them have lived with alcohol, drugs, and whatever else, partying. So we've tried to always at least give a mention, an honorable mention when somebody passes. Sometimes it might be the big, huge star. In this case, he's probably more of an unsung hero. This past week, Rick Derringer died. And a lot of people probably don't even know the name. And the ones who do are going to say, oh, he sings that song, Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo, which in the universe of one-hit wonders, this would be his one-hit wonder, I guess. Okay. However, he was active within the rock community and played on a lot of records and produced and did all kinds of stuff. So we'll just give a couple of minutes here to Rick Derringer, and may he rest in peace. In 1965, he was with a band called the McCoys. Have you ever heard of the McCoys?
Negative.
Okay. The McCoys made a type of music that we call garage rock. I think they even called it then, because there was this phenomenon of four buddies who went to high school together, getting together in the garage and playing. And it had a certain raw and very unproduced sound. It wasn't smooth, you know? And if you listen to some of the records from that early and mid 60s period, like the Kingsmen, Louie, and plenty of others, but the McCoys had a big hit. In fact, I think it was the number one with a song called Hang On Sloopy.
Yes.
I am going to spell Sloopy, Sloopy, okay? I'm doing that because, okay, in 1965, I was 4 going on 5. I guess you were just being born sometime in the past year. I wasn't listening to music yet, and I didn't know one song from another, but my sister was. So between her playing music in her room or being in the car with the AM radio playing, I recall hearing this song, and I thought they were saying, hang on, Snoopy.
As in the dog from Peanuts.
The dog, because Peanuts was a big deal in the 1960s, yes. And the comic strip, Charlie Brown, was a big deal. And they had those TV specials, Charlie Brown Christmas. They had one for Thanksgiving, and I do believe they had 1 or 2 others.
Yes.
So you didn't have to be an adult reading Peanuts to know who Snoopy was.
Right.
Right. Snoopy was the dog who was very intellectual and funny and all of those.
What did you think he was hanging on the doghouse and like, don't let go, Snoopy, you're gonna fall?
Exactly. Plus, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a group, I think there were a bunch of studio musicians who called themselves the Royal Guardsmen, and they made a song called Snoopy versus the Red Baron. Because Snoopy in the comic strip fantasized that he was a World War II fighter. He was an ace pilot.
World War One, actually.
World War One, correct. And his enemy, his opposite, was the Bloody Red Baron.
Yeah.
Yes. And the song was about this showdown, this duel that takes place between them. So anyway, my point is the dog, Snoopy, from the comic strip Peanuts, was well known throughout the culture. So when a song comes out called Hang On Sloopy, I'm a little kid, I'm 4 going on 5. I thought they're saying Hang On Snoopy. I didn't get it, but it was kind of a cool, catchy song. And it was Garage Rock by the McCoys. Turns out Rick Derringer was a member and lead guitarist.
All right, let me interrupt.
Go ahead.
Where is he from, or they from, or whatever?
That's a good question. Hang on one second, and I'll tell you. I know that he was born in Ohio. I'm not sure where the.
So he's an American. I had no idea. I thought maybe British.
Yes. The group was formed in Fort Recovery, Ohio, in 1962, and they're best known for their 1965 hit single "Hang On Sloopy," originally named Rick and the Raiders. Oh, that's what they called themselves. They changed it to the McCoys. I don't know why. But
they're big anyway. Star Trek fans. No.
Wow. Excruciating.
All right, let me interrupt you for a second.
Please do. Go ahead.
I knew this guy, and his name was German, and he lived in Austria, but he was German. So anyway, so I got to know him a little bit, and one day he had sent me this letter, said, "Paul, listen, I got something to tell you. My name isn't actually this, it's actually von Richthofen." And now this is like 1989, he goes, "I'm finally allowed, me and my family members are allowed to change our name to von Richthofen." So he goes, "My grandfather was the Red Baron." That's what he told me. That's his name, is von Richthofen.
Oh, wow.
So now he could be, but he had this stuff and he had pictures he sent me from Germany. I was like, wow. So I don't know, maybe he had, but anyway, that was the guy's name. So whenever I hear Red Baron, because I just looked up, all right, without cheating, what was the name of Snoopy's, not Sloopy, Snoopy's airplane?
I don't know, but his doghouse
was the airplane.
That was the airplane, yeah.
Because it was called the Sopwith Camel.
Okay.
And I had no idea what Sopwith was. A British aerospace company founded in 1913, right before World War I.
Okay.
But anyway, so now we're way off.
Yeah,
so
that's okay though.
Rick Derringer.
That's what makes these things fun, is we just lead into other stuff, and we do no prep. We just go on and wing it.
Blurt it out.
All right. So, and also I should also mention that right around that same time, the Beach Boys had a song called Sloop John B.
Yes.
So we had the dog Snoopy, we had Hang On Sloopy, and then we had Sloop John B. And if you're a little kid, this is very confusing.
Yes. Now, were there? Why do I think? Now, hold it. That song was sang in the style of the Beach Boys. Am I not right?
Oh, Hang On Sloopy?
Yes.
Oh, I believe you're right. Yeah, I believe you are correct. But I think
that's
about
why
it now.
I
never thought about it, but I think it was.
I thought that was the Beach Boys. If you were to put a gun to my head, Beach Boys.
You are so correct. Yeah, it was. So it was very stylistically very similar.
So okay, so all right, they had this hit. Rick left the Raiders in the garage and made the Rick Derringer band. I'm just making that up.
The McCoys, because there was somebody else. There were the two brothers whose last name were McCoy, so they changed it to the McCoys. And I should also add that in Hang On Sloopy, I'm pretty sure Sloopy is a nickname for a girl, because he does say, "Sloopy, I'm in love with you," or something, So it doesn't. Maybe it's not a girl, but I'm pretty sure it is. Okay. And in Sloop John B, it's a boat.
Yes, I think I actually knew that, but go on. Yeah.
We got a dog and a girl and a boat. Okay.
And a boat.
Back to Rick Derringer. Okay. So the McCoys, they're 4 guys from the same hometown. They probably met in high school. They form their little garage rock band, and they make this massive hit. And of course, they never really had another hit. They did a few covers, but this is the only one they ever had that charted. And it did go to #1, and they banked all kinds of success and money off of that. And then I'm going to assume went their separate ways, because there was no more hits after that. So fast forward to 1973. Okay, I would have been in junior high by this time. So I don't recall if it's probably 8th grade. And I'm trying to think of what was popular around that time. The Joker by Steve Miller was popular around this time. Okay. So out of nowhere comes this song, Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo. Okay. And as a kid, I didn't know what to make of it because lyrically, I have no idea what he's talking about. It definitely has a sing-along kind of quality to it. And at the same time, I'm not certain at the age of 12 or 13, I'm not certain if musically, if I like it or I'm not sure or whatever. I think when I look back now, because that song was a big hit. I don't think it
Yes.
didn't go to number one, but it was a huge hit. And not only was it a huge hit, it's a song that has an afterlife.
Oh yeah.
Because having spent 30 years DJing, if I played that song, the people, at least the people my age, go nuts. They go nuts. All right. And because, a lot of songs don't. A lot of songs do not have an afterlife. They're popular in the moment. And once that popularity has faded, no one ever cares to hear it again. And if you do hear it again, you shrug and go, I don't know why I ever liked that song. But Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo, and I want you to either, if I misstate this, correct me, or if you want to add to it, it is just the embodiment of unrestrained, pure rock and roll passion and energy. It's untethered and it's just released, and it's seductive, it's infective. It's almost impossible to hear it and not want to sing along or move your body or whatever, so
because the guy when he no, it's just this really catchy riff, and then the guy, you're far more knowledgeable in what I'm about to say. When he goes, he starts hitting these falsettos and stuff, which was hadn't happened too much yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it kind of, that's why I think that's why we're talking about it. This song was a icon of 70s rock and roll. Like it's got to be on any top 10 compilation of 70s rock.
Right. And the funny thing is in the moment that it was popular, I didn't see this song at all as a song that will still be popular in 10 or 15 or 20 years. But now this song will be popular forever because it just has all of those different pieces that fit together perfectly. And it's a short song. It's like just over 3 minutes. And but man, does it do a lot in those 3 minutes.
It's now here's another question. He didn't have any other noticeable hits. True? Or am I wrong?
No, that is correct. But I'm going to add to this. He didn't have any other radio hit singles, but his output over the years it's incredible. So that was his first album in '73 with Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo. The album was titled All American Boy, and it sold really well. But over the years, I don't even have them all listed here. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. Over the years, first of all, he formed a band that recorded 3 albums. In '76, the band was called Derringer, just one word. And '76, they recorded their first album, Derringer. Second album in '77, Sweet Evil. Third album in '78, If I Weren't So Romantic, I'd Shoot You. Great title.
I never heard that before.
For an album. But he, as a solo artist, he recorded, it had to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is about 15 albums altogether. And here's how I first discovered this. And this goes back it's more than 10 years, say 15 years ago. It's in the early days of music downloading on the internet, okay? Every time I heard somebody talk about downloading, I had done the Napster thing, and that was very primitive, and it was short-lived. But I didn't know how to do all of the other methods, especially torrents. So I was trying to figure all that out. And then I kept seeing these download sites where there was so much stuff, songs and albums and movies or whatever. And I saw a bunch of different stuff by Rick Derringer, and I downloaded a number of his albums. And the one that I played a lot at the time I downloaded it was from 1996, titled Tend the Fire. Tend the Fire. Okay. Now keep in mind, and this is the album is from 96. It's probably about 10 years after that I'm playing it. So it's 2005 or 2006, something like that. And the only song, literally the only song I know by him is Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo. Okay. I don't know song number 2. So in playing this album, I'm venturing into the unknown. I have no idea what to expect, whatever. Now, let me say this, and I can't speak to most of his output, but this album, the first thing you notice when you start song 1 is, wow, is he a phenomenal guitarist? Wow. He's really, really good. Okay, number 1. And number 2, heavy element of blues and jazz in his music. Yeah.
I gotta check it out.
No, it's not just great guitar, but it's sophisticated, it's intelligent. And I'm listening going, wow, how did this guy go under the radar for so many years? Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe the people who are true rock aficionados who follow things other than just the charts, maybe they've known all along. I didn't. And as I listen to it, I go, wow, this is really good. So I downloaded a bunch of his stuff. Most of it I've never listened to. I would love to find time to sit down and do that. But anyway, so that's it. He recorded a bunch of albums over the years as a solo and as a member of a band. Oh, I should also include this. In that band, Derringer, there was a guy named Kenny Aronson, who was a bass player, and I've heard of him. And there was a guy named Vinny Appice, Appice. Appice. Sorry about that. I didn't know.
No. There's 2 of them. There's Carmen and Vinny. I could go on for hours about them.
Okay,
they're
I was
brothers.
Saying, yeah, I recognize that name, and I know that those guys have been in an assortment of different bands.
Black Sabbath.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah,
and both.
Dio and yeah.
Okay, and both guys are well known, well respected as musicians. So even when he put together his band Derringer, it was
Jesus.
Yeah,
now you really remember. I told you a story about, I don't know. I was on that metal show in the audience, and they had the Dice Man as one of the guests.
Okay.
It was the greatest. Oh my God. First of all, I already love the Dice Man, but when he starts talking about metal and rock and roll, because he normally doesn't talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, who's the greatest drummer? He goes, John Henry Bonham, of course. And the crowd, of course, he's playing to the crowd. And he goes, yeah, my I think his last name is Silverstein. It's real last name.
Yeah, it's something like that.
And so he goes, my son, John Silverstein, plays, and I think I don't know if it's Carmen or Vinny Appice or Appice. It's his teacher.
Oh, okay.
In LA, I'm like, holy poo-poo.
Wow.
That's like a drumming royalty. And
Right.
I think the brothers, we can look this up and talk about it. Steve might know. They purposely did an Italian pronunciation and American so they could differentiate themselves.
Oh, okay.
Because they kind of look, I think because I kept seeing that name. I think he plays drums. I think Bill Ward last drumming was for Sabbath was Heaven and Hell. Bill, don't get mad at me, man. I'm sorry. But Vinny or Carmen, God, my memory is terrible, joined the band at some point after that. So, yeah, that's royalty. And Aronson, I know that name too, but
Right.
now I'm going to run out and buy all this stuff tonight.
Yeah. And the other name, Danny Johnson. I recognize that name.
I don't know
Let me
that
see
one.
real quick if I can find it. He was in Alcatraz. He was in Axis, Derringer. Okay. Oh, he was in Steppenwolf. All right. So, anyways.
I want to tell the audience something funny about Kenny.
Go ahead.
For a long time, I was in the business world in the late 80s. And I started to get into computers because I had to for my job. And so I had never even conceived of the fact that other than spreadsheets and Word documents, you can use a computer for anything else because I was stupid. But I had a friend of ours, guy that Kenny knows, Tim Q, we'll just keep his last name out.
Okay.
Showed me, well, you can play music on your computer. I'm like, no, you can't do that. And then he showed me, I'm like, oh man, I'm an idiot. So then I kept telling you, Kenny, about this. And Kenny was so dismissive of computers. And stupid. I know I'm not ripping on you. But what I want to say is when Kenny finally, whatever that bug tickled in his brain, he as far as the hardware and not, if you leave out Office, like PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. Kenny has surpassed me like a million times. Like I just go to him for everything, and it's just so funny how for like 5 years he would get mad at me. Kenny, you gotta get a computer. I don't need a computer. Shut up. Like you weren't that bad, but I would just play. You
I was pretty
dismissed me.
bad. Here's the thing, and it's funny when I think about it now, but every time somebody would talk about a computer, because my dad had bought his first home computer in 1993, and I was like, it's a glorified calculator. I've got a calculator, and I didn't have to plug it in. So
Yeah.
you have to plug yours in. So I didn't get it. People go, you have a computer? What am I going to do with it? If I need to do math, I'll do it on my handheld calculator, which is solar powered. I don't even need to plug it in. So I didn't get it. I kept hearing this term internet. I didn't know what any of that meant,
But what I'm saying though is for all Kenny has a degree in mechanical engineering. He's very smart. Don't let his looks fool you. That's a joke.
All right.
But so when Kenny was given this blank slate of a computer, like he just went to town on it. And I was just like, and after a while, I was like, oh, I think Kenny surpassed me in all this crap. All right, so now I have somebody I can ask. It's great when you don't have to think of everything. I can ask somebody else who knows everything. So I'll ask you. That's how I do it now.
Okay. Well, my dad passed in 2019, but he bought a new computer in 1998. So he gave me his old one. I didn't really want it, but I took it. And he was showing me some of the simple things like how to turn it on and how to, and so I don't know, a few months later, somehow or another, the topic of computers came up and I started talking about this or that. And my dad was like, wow, you've passed me by a factor of about 1 million. So I go, well.
Yeah, because you and I are at the, there's exceptions, but we're generally the oldest age at, like when I was at Auburn, I had the punched cards for Fortran.
Yes, I did that.
And I was like, and I noticed a guy was on one of those compact COMPAQ where it had you had to load up the program into RAM and then pull that program disk out and then put a disk in like a floppy 5x1/4. And I was like, how is he doing that? He's spreading the spreadsheets. I mean, that's what I do for a living now. But when you first see it, it's shocking, and then when Napster, because Napster, the guy was their headquarters is like 3 blocks from me in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And then what's fascinating about this whole thing is, and we've talked about this with Steve, because Steve's a lot younger than we are, how it went from albums, 8-tracks, cassettes, CDs, MP. Next thing you know, it's going to be teleported into our brain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just like, it's fascinating.
Yeah. CDs and DVDs are really phasing out. They're still out there, but they're really.
I buy them because for one reason only, because of what happened to Star Wars and E.T. Like when E.T., when it first came out, the cops had guns. And then now they're, now the cops have radios, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I buy them.
Point. That's a good point.
Because it was funny is what I can't understand is what Spielberg did at his own movie. I can't believe his artistic expression. Look, you and I don't know if it was, Melinda Matheson wrote that screenplay. You thought it was a good idea. They had guns, so it was a good idea, right? You didn't change the Schindler's List to have the Nazis, be good guys, right? So why would you change? It's so stupid. But all right, we're back. But yeah, let me ask you another question. Now that I'm interviewing you a little bit.
All right, go ahead.
This is the weirdest question I think I've ever asked you. How do you listen to an album that you haven't listened to before to feel it out? Like, I've had a bunch of albums on my thing, my MP3 player, and you know how I've heard good songs on it that I had never heard? Mowing the Lawn.
Really?
Because I'm playing that I can't change the thing. I don't like this track. I'm going to skip the next album. I can't do that while I'm mowing the lawn. I'll crash and get killed. So the tracks go in the order they're supposed to be in.
Correct.
And I'm like, oh my God, where did this song come from? I didn't even know it was on. So if I handed you an album now, are you at work or how do you listen to an album that you've never heard before?
Okay. So normally I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you've got a busy schedule. So because my day-to-day schedule doesn't allow me time to just sit down and play a full album, I can just lean back in my chair and take it in, for 45 minutes or an hour. What I really like to do, and I can do this fairly quickly, is if you can find the album on the Apple Music site, okay?
Okay.
What they do is they give you like 90 seconds of each song. You can listen to 90 seconds of each song. You don't have to download it. It's 100% free. And the song, when you click to play the 90 seconds of the song, it doesn't start at the beginning of the song. They choose a place further in where the song has actually begun, as opposed to, because if songs have 90-second lead-ins,
Yes.
so they don't do that. So you're hearing what the song actually sounds like. So within a matter of minutes, I can click through the entire 10 or 12 songs or whatever it is, if I want to just get a feel for, is this something that I might consider investing an hour to sit down and listen to the whole thing? So that's kind of how I do it these days.
But okay, so when you're doing that, where are you? Physically, where are you?
Probably at work.
Okay. So your brain, like, I'll tell you about this album. My number one album of all time, which I worship, it's going in my coffin, called Power Trip by Monster Magnet. I had heard that album 2 or 3 times when I bought it, because I already liked Monster Magnet. I'm like, this album's okay. Okay, because I was listening to it and waiting for that, and I would click, I would go for a minute and a half, click myself. I didn't Apple, I was doing it. Then one day I was working on a spreadsheet. This is 1996. I was with my girlfriend at the time. And I didn't have the album flow from beginning to the end. And I went, whoa, what album is this? I picked it up. I'm like, I've heard this album 3 times. How am I so stupid? Right. What is wrong with me?
Right.
And that's happened to me a couple of times, Kenny. And that's why I'm asking you, like,
right.
I think sometimes you have to be in a ready, it's kind of like Jesus in a way. You got to be, Jesus is there all the time.
Right.
You'll be get up religious, but you got to let him in. You have to take
it's funny you mentioned that. I don't want to go off on a faith tangent, but I want to ask this question real quick. Do you remember back in the mid 90s when this thing became popular? All of a sudden, they would sell books at Costco. You're looking at a picture of something like a colorful flower garden, and it's completely out of focus. It almost gives you a headache looking at it. But if you look past the picture and then the whole thing comes into focus, suddenly you just go, wow.
Yes.
Because it was just vivid and beautiful and detailed. And you had to find just the right angle and everything. And then once it clicked, you got it. And I kind of look at—
it's a good analogy.
I look at faith that way, because people throw all this stuff at you and it's a big blurry picture that you can't really make sense out of. But once the whole thing comes into focus, it's in focus forever.
I agree. When I was younger, I can't believe we're going down this road.
Yeah.
I was almost ashamed to tell people that I had been baptized and been a born again Christian.
Right.
All my friends. I was ashamed.
Yeah.
And now I look back and I'm like, God, I'm ridiculous. Like, you know what I'm saying? And
right.
But you don't know, we don't know what to stand up for, and are we ready, and all these things that go into being the person you are, because you're not that person yet, right?
Right.
And you sometimes, I don't know when it was, because you and I are very similar personalities, as you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit louder and more aggressive than you are.
Yeah.
But at some age, I said, look, I'm not going to go out and intentionally hurt somebody or aggravate them. But at some point I said, I don't care if I make you mad. I'm going to be Paul, and Kenny's going to be Kenny. And that's that.
Right.
And that's how I feel about God. I'm not going to go out and like I had relatives, I don't know if you did too, that would just say, if you don't go to church, you're going to go to hell. And I mean,
right.
You're like, what?
Right.
And no wonder people are turned off by Christians going to church, right? But when
Right.
I start thinking about these things like the universe and like this isn't an accident, and and you see other people and they think about like the movie Signs, Shyamalan. I don't think he's a Christian. I don't really know his religion,
Yeah. Who
but
knows?
like God's sending Mel Gibson all these messages. He's too stupid to realize God's talking to you. Why don't you wake up and listen? Right.
Right.
But I don't know. It's how do we get off of Rick Derringer to this? That's what
I don't know, but this last 2 or 3 minutes is so great. We got to get back and do another one of our God shows. Okay.
yes.
We won't stay on it for now, but so we got our warning. So let's just shift back over to Rick Derringer, and then we'll wrap it up. But I like it when the conversation wanders a little, because it's just that's the whole point of being non-scripted. Okay, so I'm going to read this real quick. Rick Derringer passed away peacefully in his sleep after being taken off life support following a medical episode. He was 77. All right. And again, I want to emphasize, for the guys who were hard rockers in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, that lifestyle takes years off your life. So the fact that he lived to 77, I mean, certainly he could have probably died younger than that. And when they say a medical episode, we don't know what that means, but he was taken off life support. So whatever it was, his health was definitely failing and pretty much over by that time. While the specific cause of the medical episode wasn't publicly disclosed, Derringer had been experiencing heart issues and had undergone a triple bypass surgery 2 months prior. Oh. So there you go, 77 years old, and apparently had heart troubles and probably had other health issues too, But his name, a lot of people probably could even hear Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo and not even know his name. But his name and that song will live forever. That's how big that was.
You were reading my mind. It's funny how someone make a song like that, and it gets into my brain and your brain, and it lives immortal. And then some kid who's probably 3 is going to hear it, hopefully, when he's 25 and make a hit song. Like, well, I like that song, Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo. I don't how, okay. I watched this show with my wife, and it's nothing to do with Rick Derringer, but what it was a tour in England, and it had all the 1 or 2 hit wonders in the 80s, and they were all at the same concert.
Oh, I think I heard something about that.
So then they had like a band who I worship called Happy Mondays, a guy named Sean Ryder. He did like 3 songs. And then Bonnie Tyler came up, and I had no idea Bonnie Tyler was British.
British, yeah.
I never knew until I'm like, hold it, I thought you were an American.
No.
So she did her song or 2, and then they had these other people, like they had Spandau Ballet, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So true. Right. And they had, so like, I don't know if they ever did that with these bands. I thought whoever thought of this is a blankety blank genius.
Genius.
I don't know why they didn't do that with like the Black Bands, Cameo, Earth, Wind and Fire, all these great bands.
Yeah.
Or maybe their egos are too big, or someone didn't put down here Earth, Wind and Fire, or Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Here's $1 million. Come play 3 songs on 12 concerts, and here's your $1 million.
Right.
But
right.
It's just like, but now it's so frustrating that I took this show for you to tell me that I might be worth my time listening to some of his music, which I would have never done. Because you know why? Because I'm an idiot. I believe the record labels and the radio. Right. And we both know that's the biggest lie ever portrayed with the human race.
Right. Yeah, that's a grift. I should also add something real quick, too, on Rick Derringer. So in 1973, which was when he released Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo and the album All American Boy, he was also, I told you, he was a busy guy. He was writing, he was producing, and he was doing like studio musician gigs for other artists. So he actually played on 2 big Edgar Winter hits. One is Free Ride. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Come on,
are you kidding me? I just played it for my wife last week.
Yep. And the other one was Frankenstein. So he was, and these were all from 1973. So he was a busy guy in 1973, was on some really big radio hits. Again, his name is never going to be well known, but he left his mark.
Well, next week, let's talk about Edgar Winter and
Johnny
good. Winter. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. All right, Steve, assuming that you're going to watch this at some point next
Now
week,
you know what
we're
to
gonna do Edgar
study
Winter
up,
and
buddy.
Johnny. Right. Okay. Any final thoughts? We'll wrap it up.
No, I was in Germany for the fans. I do movies, and we just finished wrapping Inmates. It's a sci-fi movie that takes place in a prison in space. So hopefully
Okay.
by Christmas we'll have it out there. We'll see. Anyway,
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All
all
right.
right, buddy.
All right, then. That's a wrap. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
Yes, if you're watching right now, please like, comment, subscribe. We will love you for that. Thank you for watching. Until we meet
Thank you.
again, we'll see you next time.